Meeting is being held in accordance with the public laws of 1975, Chapter 231. An adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice sent to the Asbury Park Press, Two River Times, and Star Ledger, and posted in the main lobby of the municipal building and on the municipal website. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Laura.
Mayor Portman,
Present.
Councilmember Bonatakis. Here. Councilmember Cassidy,
Present.
Councilmember Facey Blackwood. Here. Councilmember Forrest,
Present.
Councilmember Janone,
Present.
and Councilmember Trigiano.
Here.
Quorum, sir.
All right, just to be clear, we don't have any proclamations. Let's jump right to Michael Collins. Michael's going to give us a presentation on some of the code changes that we're going to need to do since we switched to the council manager form of government. So without any further ado, Michael.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and good evening to you and to the members of the council. I thank you for the opportunity to present tonight and for serving as special counsel and hoping to provide the governing body with some assistance with the implementation of the council manager form of government that was adopted by Red Bank's voters and obviously took effect with the new governing body being elected on July 1st. I handed out, I hope everyone on the dais has a copy of these slides, which are also here on the screen. And, I'm put together this presentation to provide the governing body and the public with an overview of essentially where this all started, this entire process and change of government, what a comparison between the former borough form and what the current council manager form requires under state law, and then concluding with, as the mayor mentioned, the need to do an overhaul to your code and to give you kind of some insight into that process, which I'll be back to you in a future meeting in order to approve a new code that takes into account the council manager form. If you have any questions along the way or anything, please don't hesitate to stop me. I want to make sure that I am able to answer everyone's questions and make this as informative as possible.
If a member of the public wants copies, this is downloadable somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah. I can share a PDF with the clerk or the administrator. I have made copies for everyone on the dais, but I don't have extras, but you could certainly make that available to everyone.
But we will see that one.
Yes, absolutely. And it's on the Zoom. I worked with the clerk to get it on the Zoom.
That way a little bit.
Okay,
You guys can see it better.
it's a great idea. All right. Great. So essentially, the first slide is how we got to where we are right now. So obviously, Red Bank has been discussing its form of government for quite some time. This process formally started back in May of 2021 when the council adopted its ordinance to hold a referendum on creating a charter study commission. And then that November, Red Bank voters went ahead and voted for the establishment of the Charter Study Commission and electing commissioners. I had the privilege of serving as the attorney for that charter review, which took place between November 2021 and then July 2022, when the commission voted to recommend the council manager form of government in a referendum in the November 2022 general election. That referendum, of course, passed and caused Red Bank to hold a municipal election in May of 2023, leading to the current governing body being sworn in July 2023. So it's been slightly over 2 years formally, the entire process, but now it's all taken effect, and our job is to implement the new form of government. So in the form of government that was approved by voters and recommended by the Charter Study Commission, these are just essentially bullet points of what the current form of government provides for. You have the council manager form of government under the Faulkner Act. You have a directly elected mayor rather than a mayor selected from among the members of council. You have 6 council members who are elected in at-large elections rather than using wards. There are staggered terms, which means that roughly half the governing body is elected every 2 years rather than everyone being up at once every 4 years. And you have nonpartisan elections, which has been discussed at length as part of the charter review, meaning that candidates run without party affiliations on the ballot, and there are runoffs in the event that there are numerous candidates and an insufficient number receive over 50% of the vote. So that's the form of government that was approved by voters and as recommended by the Charter Study Commission. So the following is just an overview of the differences between the former borough form that some members of the public may be accustomed to and what this new form requires. So first, I'll start with the mayor. Under the old borough form of government, the mayor only voted in a tie. In the new council manager form, the mayor is a full voting member of the governing body. And I know Mayor Portman has used that by making some motions of his own, which he is able to do as a full voting member of the governing body. In the old form, the mayor appointed and nominated certain employees, which was then subject to the advice and consent of the council. But in the new form, there's no such nominating power because any appointments would be done by the full governing body. The mayor sits as an equal member of the entire council. Similarly, the mayor used to have a veto power over ordinances, but that power doesn't exist as the mayor participates in the vote on the actual ordinance, and the majority would carry on that. At the same time, in both forms, the mayor obviously presides at the meetings, executes documents, acts as the head of the government. Next, I'll talk about the council. So under the old form of government, the council served as both the executive and the legislative body, but now under this new form, the council is only the legislative body. And that is because the manager, your day-to-day, and formerly you would equate that with being your administrator, would serve as someone who has delegated certain executive functions. But now your entire executive power is vested in the person that you select to be your municipal manager. And that's not just a discretionary decision. That's set forth in state law that mandates that the council manager form of government have a municipal manager that carries out those executive functions. In your old borough form, the council acted as the appointing power for employees unless there was an ordinance that delegated that authority to your administrator. But in the council manager form of government, governing body will hire the manager and also hires the clerk, but every other appointee is hired by the manager. So the appointment decisions are no longer typically made by the governing body. It's made by the manager. I remember in the charter review, there were always pros and cons talked about, but certainly a pro of that is, you know, if DPW needs to hire someone, you don't need to wait 2 weeks for the next meeting. The manager has that authority. So there are some efficiencies that can be realized by the manager having these powers. Lastly, the last bullet point, there was discussion at the charter study about the fact that the borough form of government, certain council members can be appointed to oversee various departments. I think that's been the case, or at least the desire of certain past councils. Because the borough form of government is so fungible, you could change your ordinance and you could govern in different ways. And in fact, an administrator is actually optional. But in this new council manager form of government, it's not permissible for individual council members to be assigned to different, to oversee different departments, because the entire council is required to function as a body through the manager, which is intended to, prevent against micromanagement and to ensure that, any decision making is done out of respect for the entire body, which was discussed at the Charter Commission at length. Are there any questions so far? Okay. So the next slide is about the administrator or manager, just comparing those two positions. So in the old form, like I mentioned, the administrator was theoretically optional, but now a manager is mandatory. Previously, the administrator would be nominated by the mayor and confirmed by the council. And that individual would serve at the pleasure of the governing body unless and until removed by a 2/3 supermajority vote of the council. In the council manager form, the entire 7 members will be appointing the manager. Now, unlike any other form of government, the manager and council manager is subject to removal by a simple majority. So 4 out of 7, the manager can be removed, subject to notice in a public hearing if the manager requests it. And the theory behind that is because you're vesting so much executive power in that one individual who is undemocratic, not elected or anything, a majority of the governing body rather than a supermajority is, able to take an action if they're not meeting their needs. In either instance, your administrator or your manager is entitled to 3 month severance as long as they're being removed, not for fault in either. On the municipal manager appointment, under the council manager statutes, it's supposed to be an individual chosen based upon qualification and experience. There is in the statute a residency requirement, but that may be waived by council. So that's council's discretion. And then the manager, once hired, has the ability to designate another official here at Borough Hall to perform duties in his or her absence. So if the manager is not available, the executive function does not come back to the council. It is in the manager or whoever the manager appoints. And if the manager fails to appoint someone, only then can the council appoint an individual to serve in the manager's absence. Again, the theory is to allow a professional individual to run the day-to-day operations of the borough. That way you don't have to wait for a meeting of the governing body for anything to get done.
Just for clarity for anybody who might be listening, the residency requirement was at our municipal level.
Yes,
It was passed by the past majority that was on the council in a residency requirement.
yes, Councilwoman. In the past, the resident in the borough form of government, the residency requirement would just be addressed by ordinance. And I know that there was a point where it was put in, and I think it was taken out and put back in or something along those lines. In this new form, it's basically the council's discretion. It basically says that there is a residency requirement, but the council may waive it. So if the council wants to have the ability to recruit from around the area, it simply would waive it upon the hiring of the individual.
Is it typical to have a residency requirement for your council manager?
I can't speak to numbers in terms of other council manager municipalities, how many have waived it, how many haven't, but I think you most commonly see the residency requirements in larger, cities where, you're pulling from a population pool of, a Newark or a Jersey City, 200,000. If you're hiring a business administrator in a mayor council form, but I think, I've seen it pretty commonplace that, a smaller municipality would waive that so that they can recruit from beyond its borders.
Thank you.
Sure. So on the municipal manager, like we've talked about, all the executive powers are vested in this individual. So they're the chief executive and administrative official for the borough. They execute all the laws and ordinances, and they appoint and remove all officials with the exception of the tax assessor. And they also can delegate that hiring, firing power, bless you, to department heads. So that power to hire can be delegated if desired, again, all in the eyes of efficiency. But at the same time, anytime a hiring or firing decision is made, the manager is required to inform the council at each governing body meeting. So I'm sure you'll set up an internal protocol, but the council is definitely meant to be a part of the process and aware of any decisions that are made. The manager can help negotiate contracts, but they remain subject to council approval. It can also make recommendations concerning improvements. The manager can attend all meetings of council as a non-voting member. Recommend measures to council, can investigate issues that arise in the municipality. That the manager is responsible for carrying out all the policies established by the council. And that was talked about at the charter review. And there were various professionals who served as managers in other towns. And they talked about how the governing body sets the vision and then it's the manager's job to carry it out. So we heard from different people who, might have told the governing body, my opinion is you shouldn't build this. And then they said, no, we want to build it. And then he said, well, my job is to make sure it's the best playground that we've ever built. So, the governing body sets the vision and then it's the manager's job to carry out those policies, also to provide for the proper administration of affairs and for preparing your budget each year, which again is subject to the governing body ultimately adopting. Councilman?
I recall also oversight, like if we're not happy with the way the manager is doing his or her job, we can fire them or establish other lesser corrective action.
Yeah, so just like in the borough form, but especially the case in the council manager form, since they're your true executive, The governing body is always the hiring authority for your administrator or your manager, and have that recourse of removal if you don't feel that the manager is carrying out your will or living up to your expectations. And that removal is there's no cause required. So it could simply, candidly, it happens due to politics at times. And if there are 4 votes, that individual is removed.
Some of us are planning to do annual evaluations at least.
Yeah, I think, those are certainly things that you could do, take steps to, play into the desire of the Charter Commission to make it a professional role where that individual is operating as a CEO. And I think those are all, really good ideas that you can work with your borough attorney on to, streamline things and make it a true iterative process with your.
Annual review is crucial. As someone who's personally supervised the municipal manager myself, 14 years, that's where you really year-end recap and good managers adjust to that, to the governing body.
And obviously the school boards, that's what we've done.
That's right, you're the superintendent. Yes.
And, we would provide goals, we meet privately, and there'd also be things that they would work on, we wouldn't share or out in the public, but there was a document we prepared for the chief executive of the schools, and I imagine we're gonna do something like that.
Virtually the same thing.
I think that's a great analogy because I know schools statutorily are required to do an annual eval, and it's, usually a pretty helpful process to let the superintendent know, hey, you're doing this that we like, hey, you can improve here. And, it's definitely beneficial to have those conversations with your administrator to make sure that your manager, to make sure they're taking care of everything the council wants.
Forgive me, Counselor, I got signals that I'm not being heard, so I just said that I know that several of us were all planning to do some kind of evaluation process ongoing with whoever we hire.
Makes good sense.
I agree with what Ben said, and also, it would set the standard by which we praise the manager praises next level down, and next level down. This way we can, is that how it sort of works in your municipality? Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Top of the pyramid.
He's the top and he does it, it goes down. All right, thank you.
One thing that's unrelated to this, but that sparks my memory, as we discussed, the manager does the hiring and the firing. So if there's an individual that, resigns and they need to hire someone, they have that authority to do so. But bear in mind that the council has the power of both the purse strings through the budget and also the number of personnel slots you have established through your ordinances. So, in terms of how many positions there are, what department heads you have, how your departments are structured, who reports to who, that can be codified. And we'll talk about that now as part of the codification process. But the council does have that power to, tell the manager, you can have 10 people in this department, 20 people in that department. It's not just the manager making their own determinations about staffing and things of that nature.
So in other words, the manager just can't create a position without us authorizing it.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
And the theory also being that since the manager is subject to removal by a majority, they're not acting without, tacit support of the majority of the council. All right, so we're on our last slide now, which is really what we're here to focus on over the next couple of weeks and perhaps months. So, if you go on your current ordinances and your current code, it incorporates the borough form of government. It has all the former things that we talked about in this presentation. And so that obviously needs to be updated. Under state law right now, there's already provisions in the Faulkner Act that say explicitly that any provision inconsistent with the council manager form is automatically superseded. So if there are any concerns that arise day to day now, we're operating under council manager and those laws apply even if the ordinances, if you pull up the code book and it says something different, you should definitely follow state law. And so the best thing we could do is obviously to get the code updated so that everything follows state law. So within the next 90 days, the borough is required to adopt an overhaul ordinance, which implements the new form of government. And the Faulkner Act calls for it, including a whole bunch of different things, including new provisions on the organization of the municipal government, setting forth the duties of all the officers, departments, and agencies, and also restating the election procedures. So everything we talked about at the very beginning that the Charter Study Commission recommended and the residents adopted, that'll also be codified. And in order to do all that, I think just in terms of nuts and bolts, it's going to be looking through your entire code right now, flagging any provisions that currently incorporate the borough form of government and drafting revisions to those to bring them up to speed in light of the council manager form, which I'm happy to assist with. And I think 80% of it's probably going to be really boring, like simple stuff that's already, it just needs to be done. So we'll take care of that housekeeping. I do think that the council is going to want to focus on certain things, namely the organization of the borough, which you establish an ordinance again, so that, you know, who your department heads are, what positions there are, and you can use the ordinances to provide guidance to your manager so that they're aware of, you know, how you want things established. And so I think that's going to be a new dynamic for the borough since we're operating under this new form. And so, you know, I'll certainly value guidance from the governing body for any of the provisions that I might need some guidance on to make sure that it's reflecting your policy judgment on those items. So I'll certainly work through your borough attorney to communicate with the governing body and get direction where needed. But otherwise, I think, you know, this process will probably take a couple meetings to get a good, clean draft together for, you know, introduction, obviously public comment, and any revisions that may be needed. The 90 days to adopt it expire on October 1st. So we're, you know, we got plenty of time, and under state law, the provisions, once adopted, will take effect 90 days thereafter. So that's the time frame. And, you know, if we follow this process before Thanksgiving rolls along, we'll have everything new on the books, and you'll be good to go with the council manager form of government. So that's everything I have here in the presentation, but really appreciate everyone's time, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you may have.
Public questions. And if anyone from the public has a question too, you're welcome to ask. Do we still, I guess you should probably still come up so we have it on record. There's a mic right here too.
Cindy Burnham, 71 Wallace. I just wanted to know this gentleman's name.
Sure, I'm Michael Collins.
Where are you from, Mike?
I was the Red Bank Charter Study Commission attorney and now special counsel to the borough.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have questions? Council, anyone have any more questions?
I just want to say thank you very much for the presentation, as well as the work that was done with the Charter Commission.
Thanks. It was a pleasure working with you in your chair capacity and now as a council member.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you, everyone. You guys took it easy on me tonight. Thanks a lot. All right.
Wait till you come back with the draft.
Sounds good. Have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing, Chris.
Don't know.
Well, Darren's gonna give an update because we're gonna make it.
Okay.
Mayor, I can take care of the, it's basically on Marine Park, it's basically just an update on the CAFRA permit that's been in limbo for quite a while now. We made some adjustments to it because essentially DEP was not willing to accept the material that we originally, the pervious material that we originally planned to put in there was a gravel pave. The DEP does not accept that, although they have been in other locations, but not quite in the proximity to the water that we have here. So it did not look like they were going to approve it. They essentially said they would not. In lieu of losing our permitting money, which was somewhat costly, we switched to a pervious pavement that they were willing to accept. And we've submitted that already, and it's been preliminarily approved and is now in open public comment with the DEP. We expect that to be completed and the permit released somewhere in September or at the latest October. And then we would go forward with the final design and bidding if it is approved, and if that's the council's wish for that parking area.
Great. Thank you, Darren.
Would it be helpful for the engineer to know from this council that we're moving, that we would want to be moving forward with the original plan for that park?
I mean, that would be helpful, so we don't waste time. At this, we were gonna lose, if we didn't finalize the plan with DEP by, I believe it was sometime in May, the permit would have expired, so we decision to at least put it in, knowing that we wouldn't have it for several months, and the new form of government would be in place, and the council would be in place, and they could make a determination if it were to be abandoned at this point, but we would be the permitting fees and the design thus far. Or if not, we would just move forward relatively smoothly after the public comment is closed at the state level.
I have a question. Would this also mean that should the permit get approved and the new parking created, the purpose of that is being to make the area closer to the river more of a recreational use than just be available for parking?
If we were to go with the full plan that was adopted by the previous council, then yes, the plan that's currently on the borough website would be implemented.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Darren. I'm gonna move on to public comments on agenda items only. So if you want to comment, it's on the agenda items only. Yes.
Good evening. Is this working?
Yes.
Good evening, Alan Hill, 64 McLaren Street. That's Alan, ALAN. I'm only mentioning this because at least two people have read the minutes of the previous meeting and noticed that my name was spelt wrong yet again. And that is kind of ironic. I'm back here doing that. But thank you for making the minutes available. I appreciate that. I would like to comment on a couple of items on the agenda, and I really want to start off with, if I may, if this is the point, about the bond ordinance.
You speak a little louder. Mr. Hill.
Now we can.
Thank you. I really want to speak about the bond ordinance. Is this the appropriate time to raise the matter? Okay, what we've got here is bond ordinance that's going to last for the next 5 years and includes quite a large number of capital items, including 5 new police cars, what would appear to be a new car for the chief, a huge item of PPE for the fire department, and so on. And we're seeing that against another resolution down here, and I'm just going to find it, and that would be NP 2333, which is the council tying itself to lowering, or at least lowering greenhouse gases and so on, and once again making, I suppose, something to tick off. It strikes me that we should be considering different types of vehicles than are being envisioned here. You know, this council is famously pro-electric and has indeed even got an amazing example to actually test. I'd like to know, has those tests been a failure or what? These two aims seem contradictory to me, and not a lot of thought seems to have gone into it.
I think you'll be happy to hear his comments in regards to what you just said, because obviously we realize there's a contradiction there as well. So can you comment on that, please?
Sure. So as far as the police vehicles, at this point in time, there's no vehicles available that would be suitable for police use. However, as you mentioned, this is a plan that doesn't, it's a plan right now. It's a roadmap for what we have. It's really to put the funding in place. It doesn't preclude us, if those vehicles become available in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, to switch this to a light vehicle that is electric. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an SUV. Well, it sort of has to be an SUV. It has to be a vehicle that has a 5-year usable life. You're not allowed to bond something with less than a 5-year usable life, which is why you'll never see these, say, a sedan, because a sedan has a 3-year usable life according to purchasing laws, but an SUV has a 5-year usable. frankly, I don't know the usable life of an electric vehicle, but I would assume it is at least 5 years because they run typically a lot longer than a gas vehicle. So we're basing what we submitted to MCIA, which is a lease purchase program that the county runs, what we anticipate buying only for the purpose of assigning it a useful life and a cost. So in other words, there's no reason that in 2 years, if vehicles are available for police use that are suitable for police use, and we can get, say, 4 of them for $250,000 because we know electric vehicles are more expensive to purchase than a gas vehicle, we could then switch that to just purchase 4 electric vehicles that are suitable. But as we stand right now, those vehicles, you couldn't purchase one if you wanted to right now for police use. You couldn't, it's difficult to purchase one at all through government contracting, but certainly not one suitable for police use.
And in regards to the other vehicles,
So, and the other vehicles, the construction department one, the code inspector vehicles, similarly, they aren't currently available, but I expect those will become available more readily than a police vehicle because they just have different needs. The police department has different needs. There's also an infrastructure issue where the police vehicles are used 24 hours a day and they have to be charged at some point. We don't have the ability to charge them fast enough, whereas obviously you can go gas a vehicle up in 5 minutes. You certainly can't charge one in the 5 minutes. It takes one shift to go off and the other shift to come on. So in other words, as we build our infrastructure ability to charge those vehicles and the speed at which we can do that and the availability of the vehicles that are useful for the police department, we would be able to change this, even though the funding is in place, to a light vehicle with the same or better, same or longer useful life.
and at what point had you locked into these models to like the MCIA?
It was in the spring of this year.
Thank you. We weren't on the council yet. Well, I was, but new dawn, new day.
We're looking forward. So
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I have another, and this is about NP 2334, adopting policy for committee conduct. That resolution, terrible microphone, that resolution refers to Robert's rules. I don't know if anybody up on the Diaz there has looked at Robert's rules. I've got the latest edition, and it's heading for 2 inches thick. I wonder if the council is just expecting boards and commissions and committees just to cherry pick from those rules, or whether you're going to have some advisory pattern, or indeed whether you're going to publish the rules of order for this very meeting, so we can see what's going on.
We actually, the goal of that resolution was initially, I think, based on a comment from Sue. The purpose of this resolution is basically to have all committee meetings open to the public and to get minutes from those meetings. We got some pushback from some of the committees because there's a paragraph in there about conducting meetings in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. I don't know how practical that is for some of these committees. Some of the business gets done in a short time through email. So we're going to discuss it. We'll probably do it here in front of everybody, but we're probably going to be modifying that resolution before we pass it.
Well, just to point out that in order to speak at some of these committees, you have to swear an oath, similar to, as evidence. And it would be nice to see that those minutes report correctly what people say in evidence. That's all.
Thank you.
That wasn't.
Anyone else have any comments? Yes.
Adrian Bilal, 266 South Pearl Street.
Could you,
Yeah,
I can't really hear you,
Adrian Bilal. Can you hear it now?
hardly. Give it a,
Adrian Bilal?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me, I'm in a little bit of pain right now. But anyway, is this the time to talk about the committee appointments? Or should I wait till the?
And public comment at the end of the meeting.
I think that might be public.
Public comment at the end, because I don't think
No problem.
it's not an agenda item.
Thank you.
Anyone online, Derek?
No, sir.
No? Anyone else have any? Yes.
Good evening, Cindy Burnham, 71 Wallace Street. I just want to make sure that you're all aware that where you're going to put the parking at the old tennis courts is Green Acres DEP property. And so only people that are going to be using Marine Park can use that parking lot. Shoppers can't use it. People living in condos or what have you nearby cannot use it. So I just want to make you aware. I know there's not much enforcement, but there will be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any comments or questions? No? I guess I didn't make it, but can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make such a motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up, approval of minutes and reports for 7/13/2023. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make such a motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And for our 7/13,
One thing.
Can we amend the minutes to correct the name for Alan? On the
Did you have-
7/13. Okay, good.
7/13/2023 executive session. Motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's go through our ordinances. First,
Mayor,
yes,
sorry to interrupt you. For MP 20, the one that just says in quotations graffiti ordinance, I think that's meant to be under discussion and action. So we'll just put that under there.
One-
MP 2023 and it has no number, and then it just says graffiti ordinance. It says H under
Agenda.
ordinances.
Agenda 6H.
all right,
So that would be just move to under discussion and
Okay.
action.
okay. All right, so hearing and adoption for NP 2023-01. Ordinance changing the date of Red Bank regular municipal elections to the same date as the general elections held in November. I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only. Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anyone have any comments on this ordinance? Anyone online, Terry?
No, Mayor.
All right, can I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt this ordinance. Can I have a second?
Second.
Ready, you got a roll call?
I wasn't here for the introduction. I don't know if we're correct.
You can vote.
Yeah. Second.
Mayor Portman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bonatakis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy.
Yes.
Councilmember Facey Blackwood. Yes. Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Trujillo.
Yes.
All right.
Next up, hearing and adoption for NP 2023-02, an ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 680-61, vehicles and traffic, schedule 27, time limit parking non-metered. And an introduction, do we use together, or? No?
You're opening the,
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, so. So I'd like to, oh, sorry, one more. Right, yeah, motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the public on? No? Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, I'm sorry, I got lost. Can I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
You got a roll call. All right,
Mayor Portman,
yes.
Councilmember Bonatakis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy.
Yes.
Councilmember Facey Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Trujillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Introducing NP 2023-03, amending and supplementing section 680-60, Schedule 26, restricted parking for handicapped persons. I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only.
So moved.
Have a second?
Public hearing on this.
This is actually
This is-
motion for introduction.
Just an-
I'm sorry, thank you. Take that one out. So,
Yeah, we just got a motion in a second for introduction.
all right. Yeah, can I have a roll call, please?
I'm sorry, did we get a motion?
My motion was the motion for introduction.
Second.
Yes. Christine, second.
Mayor Portman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bonatakis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Tracy Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Trujillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Introduction for NP 2023-04, amending and supplementing Chapter 680 Vehicles and Traffic, Section 680-38, Schedule 4, Time Limit Parking. Can I have a motion to approve on introduction?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Are you gonna roll call? Roll call?
Mayor Portman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bonatakis.
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Tracy Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Trujillo.
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
All right, this will be heard on August 10th. Introduction for NP 2023-05, a bond ordinance authorizing the leasing of certain capital equipment by the Borough of Red Bank, New Jersey from the Monmouth County Improvement Authority and the execution of a lease and agreement relating thereto. Can I have a motion to approve on introduction?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Portman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bonatakis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Tracy Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Trujillo.
Yes.
Motion passes, sir.
All right, this will be heard August 10th. Introduction for NP 2023-06, amending chapter 300-3 of construction codes, uniform fees. Can I have a motion to approve on introduction?
I'll make a motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Portman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bonatakis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Tracy Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Introduction of NP 2023-07, amending chapter 490-104F sidewalk signs. Can I have a motion to approve on introduction?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh,
Aye.
now you got a roll call.
You got me that time.
Simon didn't say. All right.
Mayor Portman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bonatakis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Tracy Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Trujillo.
Yep.
Also will be heard August 10th. And then this last one, we'll discuss it in workshop. A little bit later. I don't see it on here, but. All right, so resolutions. Anything we need to say about the resolutions, or can we go ahead and approve them? I do want to say, even though it was in the notes, one of them is NP 23-32, the Cannabis Board activation and appointment. I'm going to ask that we appoint Laura Janone as our council representative to that, so we can get this board activated and start reviewing some of these applications. So just want to give everybody a heads up on that if they hadn't read through.
I'll second that.
What's that?
I'll second that.
Okay, we can, I hadn't made a motion yet. I just wanted to let everybody know, but we can, yeah, we'll just do it all in group by consent. If that's okay with everybody?
The other change there is you're looking at 2334. There was going to be a verbiage change on that.
Oh, right. So I'm gonna pull that one out, because we're gonna have to discuss that one. 23-34. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve resolutions 23-26 through 23-37, except for 23-34. I have a motion to approve those.
I'll make it.
We'll go ahead and Forrest it.
I did it.
Can I have a second?
I will, Lord, Janone second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All of them?
can do a consent agenda, yes.
Okay, so. Brings us, we're gonna roll call that one.
Especially since the bill list is on there.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah,
Hot out today.
Greg, are you being a lawyer over there?
Mayor Portman,
yes.
Councilmember Bonatakis.
Yes.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Yes.
Councilmember Facie Blackwood,
Yes.
Councilmember Forrest,
Yes.
Councilmember Janot,
Yes.
and Councilmember Trujillo.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. When do you want to, it would now be the appropriate time to talk about language here?
Yep.
Okay, so let's do this right now, and hopefully we can fix it and adopt it right here. So again, as I mentioned before, the purpose of this resolution was basically just so every committee meeting was open to the public. And we got minutes from that meeting to the governing body. So if that's our goal, what changes do we need to make to streamline it? I mean, I think we want to remove that final, be it further resolved. Do we just take that out?
Yeah, I think, so, principally, one of the first concern that was raised by the committees was that the Open Public Meetings Act is an onerous requirement, particularly since a lot of these committees are informal. More important committees in the borough that, for example, the land use boards are subject to the Open Public Meetings Act, and they have real policy teeth, so to speak. Some of the other boards are very much advisory. And to make them do public notices, create a schedule, have them thinking all the time about whether they can email each other about ideas they might have, or all as a group, is they indicated very restrictive. So I think you can take out the site, the be it further resolved. There's no requirement that those type of advisory boards follow the Open Public Meetings Act. And you could just replace it with the requirement that they keep minutes. And just keep it that way. Each committee shall keep minutes that they shall regularly provide to the borough's governing body.
Right, to be published.
Oh, and to be open to the public, which would, thank you, right. Yeah, so I think you can replace that line with just requiring the committees to keep minutes and be open to be open to members of the public at all times. You don't necessarily have to apply the entire act to them, which is relatively onerous when it comes to all communications and stuff.
And what about the Robert's Rules of Order stuff?
Did the committee say anything about that? I mean, Robert Rules of Order really just, it's the parliamentary procedure you guys do here. So first, second, motion, second, things like that. Generally, point of order it can be significantly more formal depending on the conduct of the committee. I'm sorry, Mr. Forrest, you're raising your hand. You had a question?
Well, I just had a comment on Robert's rules. I mean, I've actually read them a few times. I've actually gone to workshops on them, actually. They're very involved if you're not a lawyer. This, it is like a 2-inch thing. Mr. Hill is correct. I mean, we probably need them here officially so that especially if we're not getting along or something like that, there's structure there so that everybody gets heard. I have mixed feelings about them for the Animal Rights Committee necessarily. I mean, I guess if you have to adopt them, you have to adopt them, but you have to know a lot actually to implement it correctly. I mean, when we had to use them, when we get into it, the lawyers sometimes struggle, flip through the book. And so, this is my editorial comment on it.
I agree with the comments. I do believe, though, that the committees, I mean, as somebody who served on a commission, there do come times when you do have to take a vote. And there should be old business, new business, an order of events, a taking of attendance, an order of business. Would it be possible to have one night as like a workshop session where even just the chairs of the different committees could come in and meet with you and get a quick rundown of how to
I
run
actually
a
have a
meeting?
cheat sheet, believe it or not.
That's phenomenal. Okay.
I have
I
a
think
one-page
that would
form
help.
that tells you the 9 basic motions of Robert's rules.
Okay, I think that would really help.
Yeah, I mean, the principal, purpose, if that's what you're applying, is the body acts as one. So if it's an advisory board,
you really want to know what all the people think. So you don't want just one person coming back to the governing body. Maybe you want resolutions, so they communicate with you via report or something that they all approve in that manner. I think that's the real import of the Roberts rules. Not that I think points of order are going to arise in the Animal Welfare Committee or another, the drug-free committee or what have you. So I mean, it's up to you guys as to what you want to require the people that are working for you, but I could certainly meet with them.
They're not that onerous.
Where?
The Roberts rules are not that onerous. We use them in all fire department meetings.
Well,
They're not.
the book itself is like a choose your own adventure book. Depending on
book
what
itself, yes,
parliamentary
but
form you want
In
to take.
reality, with the forms, with the nature of these advisory committee meetings, it is not, it's what they would actually be using and implementing from Robert's Rules of Order
That's it.
Minimal.
would be appropriate. And once again, it's the easiest way for them to have a voting mechanism. For example, when they are thinking about sending a suggestion to the council
Right.
of an ordinance or something, taking a vote, before they do that, they need a structure to do that within.
I'll also note that because Robert's rules are really like a choose your own adventure book. Really, it's up to the body that's meeting as to which parts of it they want to adopt and incorporate into their process. So they don't have to follow the entire book if they want to adopt certain points of order, things like that. But it really, it's really a way of saying organize yourselves in
Yes.
a fashion.
Right.
Yes. Right.
So it sounds like we could keep most of the wording of this resolution.
Except for UTMA.
Change, we can keep the wording of most of the resolution and just change that last be it further resolved.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, Mary, with this whole Robert's rules discussion, there's really not an alternative unless you write a comprehensive list of rules for that,
Right.
and they might not even be applicable to every committee that we're talking about. So for lack of an alternative, I would say that's the best reason and allow them to use them themselves.
So let's just pin down the wording for this final, be it further resolved, and then we can go ahead and vote on it. Be it further resolved that all borough committees allow the public to attend their meetings and provide minutes or a report to the governing body, something like that.
That are also accessible by the public,
Also accessible by
to the public, available to the public.
It's open and accessible to the public and that they must keep minutes of their meetings that are regularly provided to the governing body.
And then available to the public. The minutes cannot just be provided to the governing body. They have to be
Oh,
available.
using the minutes available.
Correct.
Yes, sorry, I follow you. Yeah, you can require that.
Do we really have to have available to the governing body as opposed to just making it public straight out? I'm just saying,
You don't, like, as in, we don't need to see it before they are submitted to the clerk for
Right.
the public
Right.
viewing.
Yes.
Yes,
Correct.
that's correct.
I mean, technically, I think
And
they're subject to Oprah in any event. They're made in the ordinary course of business and kept, and you're requiring them to be kept at this point, so I don't think you can keep them from the public even if you wanted to be
No,
honest.
we're just
No.
stating we don't want to be another onerous step.
Right, to create.
They get
Send them to-
Send them directly to the
Clerk,
clerk.
The whatever the process that the
Right.
clerk is making,
Correct.
that they get posted online.
Okay.
Yep.
You want to read back what you got there, Laura?
That's got it.
That all borough committees are open and accessible to the committee meetings are open and accessible to the public, and that the committees create, maintain minutes to be available to the public.
Sounds good.
That works.
That covers it.
Okay, so then with that edit, can I have a motion to adopt resolution NP 23-34?
Sure, yes.
Have a second?
Second.
We have to vote on roll call because we made an amendment. Or can we just?
You can say all in favor.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I mean, we should always say that. Now you're telling me.
Technically, yeah.
It hasn't happened, it hasn't happened for years.
Order. All right. Okay, we're down to some discussion and action. Special events for approval. I'll just read through these all, but then I think we can vote to approve them all at once. Let's see. First up is a VNA National Health Center Week event at 66 Bridge Avenue, Thursday, August 10th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Second is Tigger House International Overdose Awareness Day in Marine Park on Thursday, August 31st from 5 to 7:30 p.m. Number 3 is Cirque de Peace at Riverside Gardens Park, Saturday, September 9th. And fourth is the Preschool Olympics. Awesome. At Count Basie Field, Friday, May 3rd, 2024, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Anyone have any questions on any of these special events? No?
Mayor, just for the sake of the newer council members, it's usually approved conditioned on final approval by the special events committee. Some of them haven't been fully vetted by the special events committee, so it usually goes back to them for final approval at some point prior to the event, but that's
So
usually
we
within
approve
30
now
days.
and then they have to go back to special events.
Correct.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve these special events? Have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
I,
All right, we don't have it. I was gonna say, should we slide in the workshop right now and talk about
Discussion and
the
action.
graffiti ordinance?
I already have it up out there. for that.
Okay. But to make a motion to go into workshop, you know, we're just doing, all right.
We can just go to the next item.
Okay. What's that?
We can just go to the next item.
Okay. Yeah, it's not on the agenda, but let's just go into workshop a little bit and talk about this graffiti ordinance.
so I asked for this to be added to the agenda. Thank you, Mayor, for adding it. There's been a lot of, public concern about increase of graffiti, and I thought a great place to start would be to look at what's actually on the books and what's actually being implemented. So there's some copies out there, but for anybody at home who would like to look up this ordinance, it's chapter 382 graffiti Red Bank NJ. And if you just type that into Google, it'll literally be the first thing that comes up on the search engine. You'll be able to see it right there. And then I just wanted to pass over to the borough attorney, but essentially one thing that I found that is implemented in other places that have this as an issue is that there's a fine for property owners if they do not remove the graffiti in a certain amount of time. This really, to me, would help give, that would really alleviate a lot of the issue with absentee landlords and people who are leaving that graffiti there. I also found it really interesting to find out that we have a trust, a borough trust, that is supposed to have money to allocate towards cleaning up graffiti on borough properties. So that was interesting to find. But yeah, I just wanted to just crack open what we had already, what's, being implemented, not implemented. And sometimes I just think it's really useful to look back and see what's been passed and what's there when we're looking to move forward on an issue. So for attorney, what have you found? What do you think?
So you guys asked me to take a look at this.
Yes.
And so you mentioned the very first thing, which is that there's no fine for failure to remove graffiti following notice. So that's the first thing that really should be added to 382. You already mentioned that one. In generally researching it, I found that the borough of Rutherford actually has the best one that I could find. I looked at 15 of them. Including the definition of graffiti, which I have up on the screen out there for the public, and I'll read it for the council. It includes any unsightly, offensive, or defacing writings or other written or pictorial matter by any method or device and of any content which contributes to the defacement of real or personal property and which contributes to the ugliness and unsightliness of its object, space, area, or community, and which is detrimental to the attractiveness, neatness, and good order of the municipality. And then I particularly like this next line, especially given the nature of Red Bag. Says this definition includes all writings or other written or pictorial matter which are commonly understood and accepted by a reasonable person as graffiti and not intended to infringe upon any protected artistic expression. So I wanted your guys' permission to, our definition of graffiti by contrast is pretty light, but also includes another line that I think is good as well. And the current one is any inscriptions, words, figures, or designs that are drawn, etched, marked, painted, pasted, scratched, stapled, or otherwise affixed on any real or personal property. I thought that was pretty one vague. Doesn't meet with the police power of the municipality, which is really to keep good order, public order. But the second sentence of our current ordinance also, I think, is important given the nature of Red Bank and should probably stay. And this says, the graffiti includes commercial graffiti commonly involving the posting of bills or stickers, which means any advertisement or notice of a commercial nature, which I noticed that the guerrilla, I've been around here, the guerrilla campaigns of the stickers are.
Sticker slaps.
Yeah, all over the place. So I thought that I would meld those two definitions together to really have a solid the one that protects the artist in Red Bank, two that addresses the sticker slapping all over Red Bank, and three has a significantly more specifically tailored definition to the police power that relates directly to the police power of the municipality, which I think, it could help enforcement in the event someone challenges a municipal court. So that was number one. Number two, what the current Red Bank ordinance defines as an act of graffiti is pretty light as well. It says a person commits an act of graffiti if the person, having no right to do so, intentionally apprised graffiti, or in the case of a commercial graffitier, causes graffiti to be applied to property. Whereas you can, I guess you guys can see it up on the screen, Rutherford calls it defacement of property. And it calls the writing or placing of any graffiti on any public, private, or real or personal property, or a mixture of both, without the express knowledge and consent of the owner is prohibited. The marking or defacing of any property by an owner thereof in such a manner as to constitute graffiti is likewise prohibited. To the extent permitted by law, any parent, guardian, or and this is the other important part as well, I should mention, it should really be number three. I don't think that there's like a senior citizens group that's going around Red Bank and graffitiing. It's typically teenagers. And so the current Red Bank ordinance doesn't make the parents responsible for minors. Whereas the Rutherford ordinance says, to the extent permitted by law, any parent, guardian, or custodian in charge of any minor who's convicted of violating this chapter, who has neglected to properly supervise such minor, shall be presumed to have aided and assisted, allowed, or permitted said minor in violation of the chapter. And then it also requires the parent to attend, if the child is caught, it requires the parent to attend community service with the child upon conviction in municipal court. So presumably they can have a nice long talk during their 20 hours of community service, which I thought was a really good, without hammering people with thousands of dollars worth of fines,
Yes.
is a good way to address, minor children, if and when you catch them. Without, pounding a 16-year-old for $5,000 in fines it seemed better to me to send the parent and the child 20 hours community service. I thought that was a really good provision that was in there. And responsibility for violations, which is also absent from your ordinance. In enforcement of this chapter, all persons directly or indirectly involved shall be equally responsible as the individual who actually defaces the object area. So if you boost your buddy up onto the bridge to do the graffiti, you're just as responsible as the person who went up there, which is perfectly legal in criminal law, right? If you're aiding and abetting. So those were the additional provisions that I, in my research, found that I thought were lacking from the Red Bank ordinance. And with your permission, I'd like to revise the Red Bank ordinance to include those things. The remainder of your ordinance is actually better than Rutherford's because it more specifically adheres to the statute that authorizes an ordinance like this, which requires 90 days notice and significant rights on behalf of public property or private property owners who may not have the money to immediately remove graffiti. It gives them significant rights, which the Rutherford ordinance kind of skips over at the end. But you have the statute, verbatim in here, and it's very solid. And the graffiti fund, which I thought, the trust account, which I thought was excellent. And what that means is, just to piggyback on what you said, if you're convicted in municipal court, in addition to community service, you have to pay, at this point, it's $50, although I'll note that this ordinance was really passed 17 years ago. So you might want to take a look at that as well. But you have to pay a mandatory fine within the municipal court that then goes directly to the graffiti trust account to remove graffiti from public property. So it's kind of, the enforcement kind of fulfills itself. I would leave that alone unless you want to change the monetary amount.
Permission to speak? I remembered our bylaws that we haven't removed yet, I don't believe. Just momentarily. Yes, I really liked what you said about Ed Rutherford talking about the defacement of purposeful public art. And I'm wondering if in the language for the graffiti trust account, if something could be stated in there that if there's an area that's getting hit hard and often with graffiti, that money from that trust could be used for a public mural as a remedy to remediate that issue.
That would need it.
Assuming it's public land or we're talking about with permission of a building.
It would have to be public, it would have to be under ours because the language here is that the fund is for
Right.
municipal, it's for our buildings use. But nevertheless, if we had a bathroom building on a park or somewhere that's being hit with graffiti pretty consistently, if it were to be remediated, that we could use the graffiti trust account to put public art in its place.
I certainly think you can do that.
Yeah, I just think my initial feeling about this ordinance is that it's putting a lot of eggs in the basket of that you're going to catch the person that is acting in the face of graffiti. And I find that very interesting when it is rarely ever the case that somebody is caught that has done the graffiti. So I'm more focused on the other language that's in the ordinance. And like I said, the absence of, a fine on a property owner to remediate. Because how often are you catching people that actually do the graffiti?
A small percentage.
A small percentage, yeah.
I should also, I thank you for mentioning that. So Rutherford also has a reward. So anyone who leads the identification, apprehension, or conviction of a person who applies graffiti is entitled to a reward of $500. I don't know if you guys want to include that or not.
Councilman Cassidy's thinking something. I would love for him to speak.
I'm looking forward to the draft of this for introduction, because I gotta tell you, I was taking some notes. You're talking about the question of what's the definition of neatness? What's the question of reasonable? And then you brought into not infringing upon artistic impression. And we're gonna put out there that people are gonna have to sit here and have a debate over, was this actually some form of artistic impression? And I just see we are opening a whole series of cans of worms. So I'd like to see the draft. And then to kind of like see how you construct it with all these things in mind, because I'm certain that your lawyer mind will actually think this through. But it did seem to me like in some ways that was getting into it. I'm also a little bit concerned. I mean, rewards are nice, but I mean, this is not the, I don't know that I need, I have some bounty. I have some concerns, but I'd like to see the draft, and I'd like us to actually take what you think is the best possible ordinance, and then for us to all discuss it, because I think that's actually the proper process, instead of me saying, hey, you read this out loud, and here's what I do and don't like now. Let's take a draft, and then I'll have a conversation about it and hear from the public as well, what they like and what they don't like, and workshop it a little bit. But I do like where Councilwoman Trignano is coming from on this. I think there's a lot of good ideas, and I do agree with you that our existing definition is pretty damn weak. Let's just put it simply, so we can absolutely improve upon that. But I see a lot of debates over what's art and what isn't coming down our line by that. I don't know how Rutherford's going to, how they're dealing with that, but I don't want that debate.
Yeah, my focus is really just on, more, like I said, the graffiti trust account definition, and then the personal property owners having to clean up and remediate in a timely fashion. And I think the community service suggestion actually is an interesting one for minors, if they were ever to be caught, which happens, but I do think that I would entertain that. I think it is helpful to say how you feel now when he's going to be preparing a draft.
Here's
So,
my thing with the community service and tying it into parents, is we have a lot of parents, I just want to be very cautious about where we're trying to define a parent being negligent for the care of their child. There's a lot of parents who are working parents. I don't want to put anyone in this community at a disadvantage where suddenly they're being judged as a parent in an unfair manner, even where they might prevail and being said, you know what, this was the wrong accusation. I want to be very cautious about that. It's a very minor crime that can be cleaned up and reconciled. I don't want to start putting families on trial and parenting on trial in this community.
Yep. He speaks.
No, I want to see the draft too.
Ben has something to say.
Okay, well, I kind of also am a little concerned about punishing parents. I mean, probably a lot of these parents that are struggling with kids that are not behaving may have multiple job. I'm a little concerned about punishing parents also, so I want to see the draft. I mean, sometimes kids misbehave and parents may have absolutely no knowledge of it. You know, I just want to see what you write about that.
I think the beauty is he doesn't have to include that. I mean, if we're telling him right now not to include it.
I would rather it not be included.
That's
I
what I'm
don't,
saying.
I don't want this body, especially, this is a very minor quality of life crime. I would like us to address it. We can do better as a community. We shouldn't be, yeah, we shouldn't be tying parenting skills into and parenting and then putting people's home economic
Yeah,
status.
so just don't, that wasn't even why it was put on the agenda. He was just reading suggestions from Rutherford, but if we are against that, then there's no point in him putting it in a draft for us to strike it.
Yeah.
That's not the purpose of why it was put on here.
So that's exactly the feedback I'm here
I appreciate it. Thank you for hearing me out, everyone.
Yep.
I am more, Counselor. Okay, so I actually just directing this at the chief. Are we having, I mean, I've seen on social media some pictures recently of graffiti, you know, that was unpleasant. Are we having more of a problem with graffiti in Red Bank than we've had, you know, in the recent past? And how would you characterize this issue of graffiti that we're having in Red Bank?
It's definitely more than we've seen in previous years. And that's not particularly atypical because it's often the same graffiti. It appears to be by the same person. So you have a person, a group of people putting the same, what we call a tag on different buildings, or different signs or different structures, or the ground even. So when you have even if it's a small group of people doing it a lot, it's become burdensome, not only for property owners, but particularly for DPW, because a large amount of the graffiti we're seeing this year is on public property, parks, our signs and around town. So, and they literally, if we're aware of it, they clean it within 24 hours, our DPW. It's inside our bathrooms at the parks, which has caused us to have to lock them earlier in the day and on days when we don't have staff to monitor them. So it is a problem this year more than most years, and it could be a one-off, and next year we might not have as much of a problem. But as Councilwoman Trigiano said, it's very rare that we actually catch somebody to the point of the reward, although I understand the concerns. When you have a person or group of people who are doing it repeatedly, that might be helpful. I'm not, one person who puts a sticker on a sign, maybe not so much, but when you have the same person putting the same tag 50 or 100 times around town, that's when it's more troubling.
Yeah, that is concerning because, obviously we need the bathrooms open at Camp Basie Fields. Because there's a lot of activity there.
And Camp Basie Field, we do have more staff out when we have the events there, but like Marine Park, Riverside Gardens Park, East Side Park are not necessarily borough events where we have a Parks and Rec staff or a DPW staff there. They're more of a pickup games and just kids, hanging out and doing nothing wrong. But then when you have a small group of kids going into the bathrooms, we've had the bathrooms literally covered on the inside. Obviously, cameras can't capture that even if we have them because you don't have cameras inside the buildings. So.
Right. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Chief, I have a question. At one point in the 70s and 80s, I think, when there was graffiti all over the place in New York, I can remember that. There was also a change to the law where you had to be over 18 to buy spray paint. Is that still on the books?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of any law of that. And to be honest with you, although a good number are spray paint, a good number are also magic marker. We had some of the kids that we've actually captured on camera are using a small marker that's not much bigger than my pen. They're not actually out there with a can of spray paint, and which makes it difficult to enforce too, because you find the kid with a marker, there's nothing that says he did anything wrong. You find the kid with a can of spray paint, it's a lot harder for him to explain that.
Right.
Okay, so I think, anyone else have anything else they want to add to this? No?
No,
All right, so-
I stated my two goals very clear. I want to be able to use the graffiti trust account for public art in places that are borough owned, that are getting heavily tagged as a progressive way of remediation. I also want to see that property owners or absentee landlords understand that they'll be fined if they don't clean up graffiti on their properties. Those were my two, and I like the language that you said about defacement and a clearer definition of graffiti being used. And I'm open to something being put in about a reward, but I would like to, I think what you just said was really enlightening. Like, if there is somebody who's out there and just a serial tagger, that makes sense to me. If I'm going around town and I'm seeing, ghost over and over again, like, I understand, like, yeah, I understand, that might be, but how do you put that into language that where we only want to seek a reward when it's a serial, like a cop?
I give the discretion to the manager.
The discretion goes to the manager.
Manager can offer a award in his or her discretion for the information leading to the apprehension and conviction of any person.
Apprehension and conviction of any person who applies graffiti within the borough. So it's the governing body hereby authorizes the borough administrator. That's how they do it there. So when you're not offering a $500 award for every graffiti artist caught, the manager can announce, if you have someone who's got 100 tags around town, tell us who this person is and you get a reward.
Yeah.
And we also, it sounds like we want to remove that language about parental responsibility, so.
That's not in our current.
Right, now, Greg had just been taking notes.
Oh, yeah.
Let's make sure that doesn't make its way in, so.
And I'd like to know how much is in our current graffiti trust account when we talk to the CFO next.
I will check, but I would venture to say it's a small amount with each person being charged $50 and knowing the number of people that we charge in a year with graffiti and then who get actually, convicted through the juvenile courts or the municipal court. I would venture to say it's going to be a small amount.
I'm a little bit hesitant on the reward because where would that get funded from? I mean, will it be coming out of the graffiti trust fund? I mean, I know I'm getting into the minutia. It's ideally, I think, if we could have a non-monetary incentive, that might be an option, but I'll noodle it some more.
Yeah, so as Greg just mentioned, for rewards, if we have a major crime like a homicide or a robbery, and we offer a reward, that's usually through Crime Stoppers, which is a 501, a nonprofit organization that supports law enforcement in that way. I doubt they would do it for graffiti, an act of graffiti. It's really for the most serious crimes.
You have enough to work with?
Yes. All right, thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? No? All right, let's roll right into mayor and council comments. I want to talk about one thing because I know I wanted to clear it up. I know it was in the public. John had written about it today when he was discussing the meeting.
Yes.
Darren, this was supposed to be Darren's last meeting. It was supposed to be done as retiring as our chief and interim BA. He's having some pension issues. I guess I'm without going into it. We're delayed another month, basically. So we will have Darren for another month. But I do want to say that at the next council meeting, we will be announcing the terms of our new manager search. Because we know that was important to everybody and we want to jump on it. We're just trying to get through a lot of other stuff, but so yeah, we'll have Darren for another month. We will probably be, we've also interviewed as a governing body. What's that? Cameron?
Yeah.
The contents, but you can.
Right.
The conclusion, right?
Yeah, so we did sit down and interview Captain Frazee, and as soon as we are able to, as this all goes through, Captain Frazee will be the next chief of police here in Red Bank. I think that's about it. Yeah, so that's what's going on. So I will use those as my comments, and I'll send it around the horn. Ben, I know you said you had a good Parks and Rec report, so let's hear it.
Okay, we had our
Turn
first.
the mic on.
We had our first Park and Recs meeting here on Tuesday. And Oscar wants me to share that we have Tuesday night movies, several of which have been canceled because of the rain, but we are continuing that program. Fitness in the Park, Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. Thursdays, jazz concerts at 7 p.m. in coordination with the Jazz Arts Project. I'm not going to go through each Thursday schedule, if that's okay. Sunday, Count Basie's 365 West Side Jazz Concerts in coordination with the Jazz Arts Project. Sundays at Johnny Jazz Park, 3 p.m. Sunday, July 30th, I believe is the first one. And then it goes to every Sunday through August 20th. Go to our website to see all the details. And on the horizon is our second annual Hispanic Heritage Celebration, Saturday, September 23rd at 2 p.m. Riverside Gardens Park. More details coming soon. We are accepting vendors and sponsors, if anyone knows anyone. And our 75th anniversary Halloween parade. We're going to be going to do a little bit of an extravaganza. More details will be posted soon. But if you have some ideas for the Halloween 75th, please get a hold of Oscar. That's my Parks and Rec. Thank you for the honor of being appointed as our liaison to that committee. It was very interesting. Let's see. I just wanted to mention in my report today that we had a very nice event with the Senator Gopal at, maybe you'll say more details about it, Laura, at the Thin Gopal food pantry on Shrewsbury Avenue. Also, we've had feedback continuing on our Wednesday meetings. Nancy and I were there this Wednesday. And it's actually you keep seeing people parking illegal on DeForest Avenue and Shrewsbury. So we're working on that. I think that concludes my comments. You addressed the one that I had. I just want to see how we're doing on our search for a new manager. Obviously, that's probably the most important job that we have to fill. Thank you very much.
All right, Laura?
Can you hear me? No,
Yeah, turn your mic off.
I think you have to turn your mic on.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can hear me, right? Okay, so I went on a call with somebody from the All of Us research program, which is going to be at the Zion Church on Monday, July 31st through Thursday, August 3rd, 10 to 4. It's a mobile unit. It's a large research program led by the NIH. It's part of the Precision Medicine Initiative. And the goal of the program is to help researchers understand more about why people get sick or stay healthy. The program aims to recruit 1 million or more participants. They actually have over 650,000 people already nationwide in a database, which is pretty cool. People will join, may share information about their health, their habits, and what it's like where they live. By looking for patterns in their information, researchers may learn more about what affects people's health. So we have a lot of flyers in both English and Spanish. So I was going to hopefully, maybe Laura and I could work on that and get them in color, and I put them around different places. And they would like some council members to visit the mobile unit when they're there. It's already set up. It's in Newark right now, so it's on its way to Red Bank. It's pretty cool though, because they are getting a lot of research data out of it, and people can say as much information as they want, or they can give as little information as well, like a survey about hypertension or diabetes, or if they want to give more information, they can also give more information. So it was a really good information thing. If anybody wants to know about it, I have a lot more information here on that. And then we had a library meeting. That was, when was that? That was July 20th. And what came out of that was all of our librarians are trained in Narcan, and we have Narcan there, which makes me very excited. But we don't have a defibrillator there. So we are getting a defibrillator from the VNA. So the doctor has to sign off on it. I happen to know one of them. And then the VNA, Chris Renda and I are meeting next week about getting a defibrillator in the library. And today, you want me to talk about today? Okay. So the pantry, the food pantry is a year old. I can't believe it's a year old already, been Copel's Food Pantry. So there was a celebration there today and a dedication of the David E. Howe Thyroid Disease Resource Center at the pharmacy. They unveiled a plaque, which is going to be really great. They do blood work. They'll have free blood work along with a lot of free thyroid medications. I think about 8 different kind of thyroid medications. So that's really a great thing too. I found out today they also have free insulin there too. So good.
Great, thank you. You want to just turn your mic off there, Laura?
Okay.
Yeah. Councilwoman
I have no report.
Nancy, do you have any?
Yes, like Ben stated, I'm grateful that, you know, we have the time to be available with our council hours. I really like that it's on Wednesdays in the morning for those who have time during their day to come by, as well as in the evening as well. Looking forward to National Night Out, which is Tuesday, August 1st. So it's at Count Basie Fields, if I'm not mistaken. Go out and check out what they're doing. The other thing I'm looking forward to as we go down the line addressing the impacts of climate change is to implementing the infrastructure and equipment for electric vehicle charging, which would then enable us to get electric vehicles where necessary. So I think that's great. And another thing coming down the line, coming through the EC Green Team is that it's time for Red Bank to get started on doing its actions for documenting its actions. We are doing a lot for Sustainable Jersey certification. Red Bank right now has had silver status since in 2018 and 2021, and in 2021, Red Bank received the Innovation Action Award for the Senior Dropbox program, as well as for the Language Translator program, both actually coming through the police department. So I'm saying all of this because there are numerous actions on the Sustainable Jersey website, and there are actions that will help foster knowledge and how to make our community more sustainable. So there will be members of the EC Green Team reaching out to Darren for contacts within the borough to work through some of the actions. We'll be partnering with other committees such as community engagement and, you know, all the other committees as well to get information for the actions. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, first, I just want to say how happy I am that you all heard my ideas and we had that exchange before. So thank you. I think that was really productive. So thanks for hearing me out, making changes, and I hope that we'll continue to do that throughout. But I appreciate it. Just want to acknowledge the way that everyone was so receptive to one another. I'll comment on an event I popped in. Ben mentioned Jazz in the Park last week. I popped over. It's happening, I think, right now, and I assumed it was canceled for a second because Barbara and Steve are here. And I assumed that it was actually happening to be with. I just wanted to tell you, like, I was just so impressed by the families. They're there, they had their coolers out, it was kids, they were playing frisbee. What a great event. It was such a great cross-cultural event. And the sun's going down over the Navasink with some incredible musicians. You know, Parks and Rec is doing a fantastic job, and just the way that it was being enjoyed that night. And I just got to stand in the back and just soak it in. And it was like, man, what a great town we live in to have things like that. And to build on Nancy brought up a National Night Out on August 1st. And I'll put in a plug for anyone here or listening that your council member, Mr. Cassidy, will be there with Truck 91. And I hope that you'll come on by and just, you know, chat with me, you know, please come over, say hello. And I'm available, but also bring the kids. We like when the kids in particular come on by and get a chance behind the driver's wheel. It gives us a big smile, but I'm looking forward to Tuesday night. And I hope that the police are looking forward to it as well, because it's always a really great community event. So thank you.
I'll see you there with 9-6.
Christina?
Competition, eh?
I can't top that again. What I'll do instead, though, is to echo Nancy's enthusiasm for what we've been seeing at the council office hours. I've had the pleasure the last 2 weeks to sit with Councilwoman Janone at the library in the evenings, Wednesday nights, 5:45 to 7:45 p.m. I feel like it's been really successful. These have been great conversations. And I want to thank everyone who's turned up. Down to a person, I think the attendees have been very open-minded. They've been appreciative of the time as much as we appreciate them attending. All good conversations. And I also want to offer a special thanks to Special Resident Chris Aparicio, who has offered to act as our Spanish language translator on Wednesday nights specifically. I did not organize that. I know Kate gets something. But I just want to thank him. He was wonderful. He's a Brookdale student and a member of our RBPD translator program. We just feel like a translator is really going to help make these sessions significantly more inclusive. And we do look forward to promoting this among our Spanish language community. So please also spread the word that that is going to be available on Wednesday nights. Thanks, everyone.
All right, can I have a motion to open up the public comments?
I'll make such a motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adrian, now would be the yes time.
Excuse me. Hello, everybody. Adrian Bilal, 266 South Pearl Street. I want the question answered as far as what was the process of choosing your committee members, and especially of the Parks and Recreation one? What was your thought process, and what were you looking for in the applicant?
Well, we had a bunch of applications. We discussed them as a group. We were just trying to get some enthusiastic people in there who we thought would do a good job. I mean, unfortunately, we had quite a few applications, so there was going to be people that were not selected that wanted to be on certain committees, and people that were reappointed to some
What
committees.
are you looking for as far as criteria? It was almost like a job. I mean, I know Sue had recommended you do that, which was fine. I was kind of like on the fence because when you have volunteers, people in the community who want to reach out and do something for the community, they should be acknowledged. And when I say that, I mean the people that were on the committee, because actually before the new government came on board, I was on the committee. My term was supposed to be up at the end of this year. And we had this conversation before, you and I, in your office, in reference to not notifying somebody, or when they're not being, like, I would say maybe dismissed, because I was recommended to be on the Housing Authority, and it was approved by the council. It went out publicly. And through the grapevine, I heard that you chose not to even submit my name. And then people told me when the application came out for this, and you said, well, they're not going to pick you. And I'm like, well, why not? I've been on it. I've contributed the years of time and effort. I have the qualifications. So I couldn't understand what your criteria was and what were your actions.
So it's just to be clear, is your issue that you weren't selected, or that you weren't notified that you weren't selected?
I was, well, both, because I had to call the clerk's office because I was looking for it and I didn't see it because it wasn't on the website. And then she informed me that it was on Facebook. Okay, I'm not on Red Bank Facebook. But I asked her, I said, well, are they going to notify people that put applications in, you know, well, we didn't select you or whatever. And she said, oh, well, no. And then a couple of days later, I received this long text message. You are highly qualified and we will keep you on the recommendation as far as if anyone steps down. And I also will bring to your attention that there was a person that you selected, did not want to be on the committee, didn't fill out an application, but you selected them. And they informed you that they did not want to be on it.
Okay. What's that?
Referencing what you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, again, I don't know that we laid out a specific set of criteria. We looked at everybody's application and we decided as a group who was going to be on the different committees. I'm sure that there were.
I didn't make the cut. Did you look at my qualifications?
We looked at all of the.
Can you repeat can I tell you what my qualifications is?
If you like, yes.
Yes, I worked for the government for 20+ years as a recreational specialist. and a supervisory program lead. Did programs at Fort Monmouth for the community, military and civilian. Worked with children from the ages of 0 to 18. And sat on many committees. Also, I was in the African American Festival, which was in PNC for 25 years plus. So I have done a lot in the community, and also when I moved here to Red Bank in 1979. That's when I started working with Parks and Recreation, softball, Pop Warner, all of that. And then even when I worked with the recent directors, when I came back to it, after my children finished with the sports and stuff that they did, and I worked with Charlie, brought him a lot of ideas that he wasn't instituting with the knowledge that I had to perfect and make Red Bank Parks and Recreation better and function better. But like I said, people told me, why bother? They're not going to pick you. So with that said, all I ask, and like I told you before, is accountability and being fair. And at this point in time, you were not being fair. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Yay.
Anyone else have any comments? Yes.
Suzanne Viscomi, 25 Peter Street. I'd first like to thank you guys or DPW for painting the crosswalk finally, so I can cross the street between Cedar Crossing and Across Bridge. I'm just curious to see what your guys' process will be as far as initiative was brought up in the past. Electric bikes and bikes on the sidewalks, and especially like on Bridge Street when there's actually a dedicated bike lane. I know there was discussion in the past. Also, I brought this up before. There's a lot on the west side of cones, saving parking spots. I had to go help a fellow resident, she was sick. And just driving on Lucas and Layton, here's a few pictures. And I was told you're not supposed to put cones out to save your parking spot. On my street, I can't park on my street a lot of times, and I would love to put a cone out to save my parking spot, but I don't want to be a jerk if it's not legal. So my question is anyone, this brings animosity amongst residents, right? Is they're gonna save it and then their neighbor's not gonna play that kind of childish game and not save it. So are you enforcing no cones in front of the houses? Because there was even more pictures I could have gotten because cars were parked there and the cones are next to it. So I know parking's a pain. Trust me, I live on a street where, like I said, I can't even park on my street sometimes. So I'm curious about that. And this was just from yesterday. This, it happens. I was also curious about the whole reward thing. Maybe we should do that for dog poop because there is an abundance amount of dog poop all over. I've caught people with my cameras, but it'd be cool if someone actually enforced, not doing it because it's getting disgusting out there. It really is between glass and trash and dog poop. If you walk on the west side. So those are my couple issues I'd like to get a response on.
The cone one. Sure. So as far as the cones, we have both DPW and our parking enforcement officers, although we're limited right now on parking enforcement, but I think we just hired one tonight. They do collect them as they see them, but obviously they're not riding each street looking for them. And in the residential areas there, our parking enforcement is there in a more limited basis, but we do see it. I've actually picked up 3 myself. Surely it's not, my top duty, but when I see them out there, if I'm driving by, I've actually picked up a couple, and we have a collection of cones behind headquarters that we've just collected around town, and we stack them up. So we do. As far as the picking up after your dog, although you're right, we don't have a strict enforcement of that because honestly, it's not that easy to enforce. We're not having police officers ride around watching people walk their dogs necessarily. We did try in a different vein we've installed, I think, 10 or 12 of those bag disposal, the disposal stations or whatever. They have the bags that you can take that we provide, and then they're mostly in the parks, right? Yes, but I realize we don't have them all over town, but it would become a little burdensome for DPW to pick up all over town if we had those little stations everywhere. They have to be empty. So we put them on almost all of our borough properties.
But I know, like you said, you caught somebody on your Ring doorbell. Like, is that what? can you call up the police and be like, here's the evidence?
Yeah, it's more of a code enforcement issue, but you could, we have to be able to identify the person. If it's your next door neighbor and they're doing it all the time, certainly. That's different.
The parents took care of it. The parent had responsibility. It's like, yes, I'll remind my kids, don't do that. But, I mean, I've had other ones too, like on my lawn. Someone pooped on my lawn and I went to the businesses and said, hey, I know your dog's hanging out in the garage and what are you doing? And they took care of it. But I'm just saying it seems to be a lot more lately because, you know, when you don't have pride in where you live and that transcends through your actions, because, you know, I see trash over there, so whatever, I went over this trash, go over here. And it seems between the graffiti and the cones and the poop and the trash, you know, number one, do you ever think of maybe having some more police presence just riding their bikes through, just to see a face and say, you know what, we're not gonna, because I'm surprised people are so okay about doing something so wrong or disgusting, because most of the people, a lot of people have cameras. I mean, it's amazing how many people have cameras. But, you know, one little thing goes wrong or one little thing looks bad and it just lowers the value of, you know, where you're living. If you don't want to take pride in your house, make sure your house looks nice. Your neighbor doesn't like that. I'm not going to keep on my paint. Look, my neighbor, I'm not going to looks bad. But I mean, this is just a ride on the street. And I mean, it's not a small, it's not like an off the path road. Layton and Locust is a busy road. I don't know how cops aren't. I mean, I see cops on my street go through many times on Cedar Crossing, and I'm on a small street. So I'm not saying it's one of the little tiny streets that are dead end that nobody sees. It's just disheartening because, you know, I'd love to park in front of my house someday.
Thank you. Darren, you said you had people online.
Yes, Mayor. Dan Rudin, you have the floor. You on mute.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi, I just wanted to say that I hope,
Just your address too.
yeah, Dan Reardon, 20 Irving Place. I just wanted to say that as you move forward with planning to put in the new parking lot at Marine Park, I hope that you're also moving forward with planning to remove the existing parking lot so that we don't have more of the park paved, which was not the idea. So I hope that while you're moving forward with the new lot, that you are also moving forward with removing the old lot. And that's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
And Nicole Tate, you have the floor.
Good evening. This is Nicole Tate from 153 Hudson Avenue. I'm in my house. I'm not on a plane this time. But I just first wanted to thank you guys for having the office hours. I think they're great. I was able to make it to the session last week at the library, and I really appreciate your time in doing that. And I hope other residents, if you can make it and you have concerns, you take the council up on the resource. It's just wonderful, and I hope you guys can keep doing it. Also, I just wanted to add to Ben's report with the Parks and Rec Committee meeting. Another thing that we discussed, which is really needed, are volunteers for the fall soccer program. We've seen increased enrollment, and I've also seen it in the track program. We could really use more volunteers, and I don't even think you have to be a parent. Like if you're retired and you love the sport and you want to help out, we do, need some volunteers to step up. So encourage folks who like soccer to maybe consider helping out and reach out to Oscar. But lastly, I know Mayor Portman, you mentioned this is going to be on the next agenda discussing the city manager. I just am so excited for us to have a dedicated city manager. I think we're going to see so much improvement. I'd love for the public just to get as much transparency as you guys can provide on just the process, anticipated timing, kind of like what the search committee is looking for, like what the interview committee is going to look like. I know it's a personnel issue and there's going to be a lot of confidentiality, and I can appreciate that. But I do think, for me personally, I've spent time with a few really great city managers. I'd love to see someone that has some really strong qualifications and an established track record of success in the similar role in another municipality, so we can all have confidence and, elect the right person and get things moving in the right direction. So that's that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
No, that's all, Mayor.
Right.
Cindy Burnham, 71 Wallace Street. Regarding the senior center. Now, Ben, you said you're a liaison, right?
No, I'm liaison to the Parks and Rec.
Okay, so you're a liaison,
To the Parks and Recreation.
right? So who's the liaison? Are you Nancy, the liaison to the senior center?
No, there's no liaison to the.
There is, okay, so here's what we would like to do. We are active seniors, we are baby boomers, we are people 60 to 75, many of us work still, and we want programs. We want programs in the evening, you know, and who can we talk to about this?
I imagine
Jackie, and then the manager at the moment, me or whoever becomes the manager in the future.
Your job.
Okay, what is the story with the Historic Preservation Committee? Why was it singled out that, that's the only one that you couldn't get it together for? That's what I'd like to know.
What's that?
Yeah, from what it was explained to me, the authority of the HPC was kind of in a middle ground. It didn't have the authority to do all it wanted to do, and or if you look at it another way, it was too strong. So we asked I think it's going to be the next council meeting.
We're planning for August 24th.
For August 24th, the HBC had hired an attorney who is apparently the known expert. What's her name again? Do you remember?
Michelle Donato.
Yeah, Michelle Donato. So she's going to come and give a presentation to us on pros and cons, different, levels of power for the HBC. And then, we'll take it from there and decide.
We always had historic preservation, but it didn't have any teeth. So people could put stones in front of their yard instead of grass, or they could do whatever they wanted to their houses. And that's why we made it a little stronger, so that the code enforcement could relate to a code. Now you say it's too strong. I have to laugh because people have enclosed porches, people have taken down chandeliers and put in hi-hats. So, it's a joke. It's not too strong. My other question was, what's the status with the senior center application in regards to the Rossi?
It was submitted, I believe, mid to late June, and I haven't heard anything back from Green Acres yet.
Okay, are you
I'm waiting to hear back.
buying it, or what are you doing?
I don't think we even discussed it yet as a group. So,
Well, it's important.
yeah.
Okay, and another thing with graffiti, are flyers considered graffiti?
No.
No, you're talking about handing out flyers, like,
Because flyers are a big problem.
well, are you talking about posting them or people putting them on windshields? It depends how.
No, I'm talking about people,
No bills.
what?
Like when you're in the city,
No,
you don't know what I'm talking about.
All right, what?
I'm talking about flyers that are taped onto our light posts, flyers that are taped onto our post office boxes.
I believe we have a different ordinance that covers that. It's not under graffiti. I believe we have as the councilwoman just mentioned, basically a post no bills ordinance. And
Okay.
what we typically do is, actually, we just had one recently where somebody plastered a lot of them around about a sale at a store that wasn't in Red Bank, and the police officers just removed them and contacted the store and told them not to do it anymore.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, when I take these down all the time, I take a picture, I call River Center, and then I take it down, and they always have information on those. And I think somebody needs to call the provider or the producer or whatever, and just say, look, we're gonna find, this is a courtesy call, but we're gonna find you next time you do it.
That's what we typically do. It's really code enforcement that does it, but the
I
police
know.
officers see something egregious, like they saw this weekend with 20 of them in the same block, and
Were they pink?
I think they were yellow, but I'm not 100% sure.
So who's in charge of taking down flyers?
code enforcement typically does. I mean, anybody who sees it, in this case, the police officer did it. Usually code enforcement does it. If DPW sees them, they'll take them down. But I mean, we don't
A River
have
Center,
a flyer patrol out there.
no, but River Center, shouldn't River Center do it?
I don't direct River Center, but
Because they have that gentleman that walks up and down the town and, cleans the street. No,
I mean, that's up to them. I don't oversee
I just want to know who to call with,
enforcement.
and who is that? Is that Tommy or is that Frank?
And no, it shouldn't go to any one person. It should go to the department. Right, it should go to the office and then they assign it to an inspector.
Right, okay, all righty, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Freddie Boyne, P.O. Box 2074. Mayor, Councilman, just what's the status on the bench, Johnny Jazz Park?
It was ordered, but I don't, as far as I know, it hasn't come in yet, but it's been ordered. It was ordered prior to the last time you asked, actually. I spoke to Terrence. It had already been ordered, but as far as I know, last I spoke to him, it wasn't here yet.
Because people's, hot as it was today and yesterday, people was actually sitting on the grass up there. Should be sitting on the bench. And that bench, we had a problem with it almost a year now, when Cliff was here. And I came by Marine Park at Mohawk Lane. They got about 8 benches around there. So why couldn't they just take one from around that river that put up there till they get the other one to come in? That would be a smart idea. Because everybody's not sitting around the park down there.
I'm sorry, what was the suggestion?
What's the move of we move one of the Mohawk Pine Park.
Yeah, I can ask Terrence if that's, I don't know how they're mounted there, but we can take a look at it, sure.
They're not sitting around that, all the way around there in the back. They're not sitting around there. So one bench can be taken from there, up there where all the traffic at, till they get this other one put in there.
We'll take a look.
And the other thing is, I want to thank the mayor, the council, for advertising the Red Bank Community Block Party. We had flyers all up. And somebody in Red Bank taking them down. We had permission to put them on people's property. They're taking them down. We got flyers in Asbury and Long Branch. They're still up. The hot dog guy down there on Shrewsbury Avenue, he owns that property. Whether you could put a flyer up there. 2 weeks later, it was taken down. The ice cream place, after took a sign down there. Went back, the man said somebody came and took it down. Had somebody going around taking their signs down. Should be looked into, whoever doing it should be caught. They got no business bothering these signs. We're asking permission to put them on the property. We're giving us permission. And everyone in Red Bank is taken down.
Take a look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cindy Burnham, 71 Wallace. I wanted to talk to you about these sidewalk signs you're talking about. Right? Are they sandwich signs that we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, are you talking about changing the ordinance or what are you?
I don't believe, I believe it just extended it. The prior ordinance had a sunset, which actually has passed. But we were just, I believe it's extending the same ordinance with the same requirements. I believe,
What we need is enforcement, because when you walk down the sidewalk, you've got a sandwich sign here, a sandwich sign here, a sandwich sign there, a sandwich sign here. They're totally, I mean, you couldn't get a wheelchair through there. I mean, even walking, you have to juggle around there. And I really think that we need enforcement, because tell me if I'm right, that if you have a yellow sign, a yellow curb in front of your store, you can put your sandwich sign out to the yellow curb.
the yellow curb really has nothing to do with the sandwich sign. That's a parking ordinance.
No, it had to do with the sandwich sign. Well, I know it did because I was on code when I was on council and had to deal with.
Yellow curbs are state statute for parking.
Yeah, I know, but you can put your sandwich sign out to the yellow curb if you have a yellow curb. But what are you saying?
He was trying to clarify.
You're right.
That you're saying so that because a car door doesn't open and hit it, that's what.
Exactly. And then you've got people that are putting these sandwich signs out to the street, out on the curb that doesn't have a yellow sign, yellow paint down it, and they can't open their door. And it just doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good.
The reason we actually, between Laura and Tommy and I, the reason we decided we needed to get this ordinance on was because we realized that it was difficult to enforce without the ordinance actually in place, because it had sunsetted. People weren't turning in applications anymore to be approved. So because there was no ordinance regulating it. So that's why this is.
We had an ordinance.
But as you and I both just said, it sunsetted some time ago, which means it's no longer enforceable.
Oh, I thought you had to legitimately take something off.
No, not if it has a sunset, right?
The redevelopment agency we could take that off too, and that turned into a big debacle.
Okay, I don't think that's the same scenario, but in this case, the ordinance that was written then had a sunset clause written into it. In other words, it had an end date to it, and that end date passed, so the ordinance was no longer in effect
But now it's in effect.
upon adoption.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Adrienne Bilal, 266 South Pearl Street. This is to the chief. There's a fire hydrant. I'm on South Pearl Street. The fire hydrant is by my driveway.
Believe it or not.
Okay. And it's painted yellow there. Then there's a spot that goes to, up to my driveway. My issue is that it's a space for a compact car. But compact cars, I have vans, I have utility trucks that park there. So if they park, they're in the yellow by the fire hydrant, or if they try to not be in the yellow, they're past the line in front of my driveway. So I was wondering, could you come out and take a look at it, or have someone come out and take a look at it? Because I think that, it's a space there, but it's not for a full-size vehicle, SUV or whatever. But if you have a compact car, you could fit in there. But who has compact cars? Most of the people that park there have SUVs or the work vans parked there.
I'll have traffic safety go out and take a look at it for you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else online?
No, Mayor.
All right, can I have a motion to close the public comment?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Executive session now, right? No, so can I have a Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. We'll see you next time.